Hey everyone, welcome to Denver. My name is Ko. I head up growth at the Sui Foundation, formerly headed up ecosystem at Miston Labs, which is the parent company, and then been long time in kind of like the gaming industry, formerly a lead of Google Play's games business, and also like angel investor specifically focused on gaming and consumer goods. So for as long as I can remember, I've been playing video games almost all of my life. And one of my favorite games of all time is The Last of Us. How many of you out there are watching the live action version of Last of Us on HBO Max? Great. So how many of you actually play the game? Oh, it's about surprising. All right, cool. So of course, I was very excited to watch the live action version. It's been a really good kind of thing to follow along, especially after I played this game 10 years ago. But what does surviving in a chaotic world with a bunch of infected have anything to do with, being a startup founder in the Web3 space? But I'll get back to that in a minute. So first, let me introduce you to the core team behind Sui. First, we have Evan, who is our CEO, the big team leader that got the gang together. Second is Sam, who's our CTO. I also affectionately call him Father of Move, the Move Father, but so some people in the thing. But he's the one that's helping architect and designing a lot of the things that you're seeing with the Sui blockchain. Adony is our CPO. He leads our product team. Kostas is our chief cryptographer, really focused on the security side, and George is our chief scientist, and he's really focused on research. So here at Sui, our mission is to create the foundation for the decentralized web that makes safe, secure digital ownership accessible to everyone. But then how do we know we're doing this well, right? That's always the million or billion-dollar question of how do you know that your ecosystem is doing well? And it really boils down to this one metric. For us, it's really about how many meaningful connections can we create for the Sui builder. And in order to thrive in a challenging climate, builders need to assemble their trusted team with individuals fulfilling specific roles. And these individuals may not have to be actually in the same team. They actually may be their collaborators. And on top of that, you have to develop a network of reliable allies. And as we all know, the odds are pretty stacked against startups. About 90% of all startups fail. About 10% of them fail, don't even make it past their first year. And as we all know, being a founder, especially in a competitive industry that we're in, is really demanding, and stressful. And probably for most people, probably the biggest roller coaster ride ever. And trust me, I've been in the rise of mobile gaming, free-to-play mobile gaming 10 years ago. And being here, I thought that was fast 10 years ago. This is a different level of fast. But having fun, none the same. But really, for a Web3 startup, it's not just about your product market fit, right? There's a lot of problems that could occur of why you're not going to make it. It could be your lack of financing, so not being able to raise funds. It could be you just haven't done really good job building your community, but not even your community of your users, but then also your community of collaborators or to maybe the kind of different project teams that you want to integrate. So you may not have a strong enough business development strategy. It can also just be recruiting, right? You just can't find enough engineers, but you can't find community managers, developers, a lot of all sorts of things, right? And if you really think about it, a lot of these problems really arise because the founder just didn't have the right connection at the right time. And so for a Web3 entrepreneurs can't just be great product builders. They really need to understand how to build and leverage social networks within not only their local ecosystem, but within the broader ecosystem as well. And so that's why it kind of sounds a lot like the zombie apocalypse. Because let's be real, in a zombie apocalypse, you really can't survive on your own. Everyone knows you're just not going to make it. You never want to be the person who is the bait, right? So you kind of have to assemble your trusted, capable team in order to survive and thrive. So who is on the zombie apocalypse team? And it's okay if you don't know any of these characters, it's fine. But if you do, come back to me and you get a special prize. So if you identify these 5 games correctly. So first, you need a visionary leader. And that kind of sees the big picture, very decisive, and can garner popular support. This is kind of also known as your CEO. The second person you need is your tech expert, the person who understands how to solve problems and know how to apply those tools to build or repair anything. Usually, this person acquired these skills before the opportunity comes along, and they're really interested in kind of solving really big problems. This is usually your CTO. Most startup teams, and up until this point, most startup teams and in Web3 usually have these 2 roles covered. But you have to kind of fill up additional roles beyond that. You got the speed fighter, or your recon person, the scout is also in the thing. This is your Swiss Army knife. with an uncanny ability to solve any problem that you throw their way, and they always have an interesting way to solve them. I don't really know why. But this is your product strategist. It could be your operations lead, could be your growth hacker, it can also be all of the above. So the fourth person is your medic. The medic is the caretaker who manages the group health, right? So this person ensures that everyone is kind of like in the right state of mind, keeps the group in really good fighting form, because this is probably your community builder or your business developer. And then the last person, which can be many people, I mean, we call them the brawlers or the foot soldiers, but these are really your dependable groups on the ground. And these are just some of the early developers, maybe your core community contributors that are kind of helping build your product, right? And they're pushing releases and fixing bugs. So, and if you think about it, academic research also backs this too. So I'm a University of Chicago grad. I'm in really hardcore, like game theory, organizational, like kind of theory. But so one professor I actually really admire, his name is Ron Burt. He's a professor of sociology and strategy at the Chicago Booth School of Business. And he's actually a leading researcher in social capital formation and social networks. So his research is focused on structural holes. A structural hole refers to an empty space between highly connected contacts or groups. These contacts don't interact that closely, and they may or may not be aware that they actually exist. So connecting these two contacts or these two groups is called brokerage. And this activity can be highly resource intensive and can be really risky, especially for an entrepreneur, right? Because if these two groups don't have anything to know at each other and they have access to a lot of information and a lot of value, but because they don't know each other exists, they don't want to take that risk in order to make that connection. And this is where we at the foundation see the biggest opportunity to provide value for our builders and our Sui ecosystem. And it also defines how we think about our ecosystem building strategy from day zero. So by helping our builders create more diverse connections, this introduces new information, which often results in additional insights that can produce those aha moments, or maybe those serendipitous connections that may make or break your startup. This could be your first investor, this can be your advisor, this can be your first platform integration or your bridge. So like if you think about it just in our world, right? Like think about Adapt, right? You're launching on layer one. There's a lot of these layer ones. So that's one structural hole you got to consider is, all right, which layer one do I even launch first? Or what layer ones do I even support, right? So should you launch your token on a decentralized exchange or a centralized exchange? Or should I do both? Which market maker should I even work with? How should I consider my tokenomics design? What wallets should I even support? Like, if I'm going to incorporate NFTs at all as a collectible reward, which marketplaces should I actually have those NFTs be tradable to begin with, right? These are a lot of structural holes that any founder or any project team has to really consider. And these are like just a lot of examples that can occur with a Web3 startup, right? And this doesn't even happen at a mature product. This literally happens from like day zero when they start building out their product. So, and it doesn't end there, right? It does not just about making the connection per se, right? Once your connection is established, you have to now matter. Like as someone who's made that connection, now that project team needs to matter and it needs to fit not only within the local ecosystem that they're trying to be a part of, but and also serve a broader role within the bigger ecosystem. And that's critical. And this kind of connection, this kind of activity is called closure. And it's a really critical for aligning and basically building trust between diverse groups. And so closure creates more channels of communication within an ecosystem and allowing for more rapid and accurate information sharing. And so it also helps manage poor behavior, right? So because the more projects that think you're important or think that you're kind of valuable or critical to their growth, the more that they're going to try to support and advocate for your growth as well. And so how does the foundation enable builders to form their zombie apocalypse, startup team? It's really about how we create these opportunities to help our builders broker and close online and in real life. So today we're actually kicking off our builder house here in Denver. We're going to have a series because we want to meet our builders in real, like where they're at. And this is also around the world. So we kick off in Denver. We have 12 different houses. We have a lot of different programs that we are launching probably in the next 3 months. And we're really excited to see all the projects that's been showcased today. If you've been kind of tracking our social media metrics, and I will have to say a year ago, I had more followers than our Sui Network account, which was really weird for a Twitter account. But now, obviously, it's surpassed that. We have more than 625,000 members in our Discord server, which actually puts us in I think the most popular one of layer ones, if I'm last checked. And also nearly 375,000 followers on Twitter, with actually a very healthy engagement rate, which is way above what the competitive market is. And then we also support and encourage many community projects localizing our documents and code samples all around the world. We have people localizing documents in Mandarin, Korean, Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese. But this is in hand with some of our most important community partners. So we're just getting started, and there's a lot of things that are really important, and I think what's really exciting about Sui per se is that we're building a chain that has been designed for relationship building, and it's designed to track all that, and that's why we're excited to get this out the door and ready. That's it. I have a very short talk because I want to answer questions, but I can't answer the one mainnet question, but I can answer any other question. That's it. But. Oh. All right, Mike Roddy, who's the brave soul? No one? Go for it. I think you got one. Okay, we have one here and we have one over there, so we'll go with the front row first. What do you got for me?
I am the head of growth at Bushi. We're a day one launch partner with you guys.
Nice.
So super excited. Definitely want to chat with you. But I'm curious, how can I join one of those houses, or what does it take to join one of those 12 houses that you're starting here?
Yeah, so a lot of our houses, I know, I think with our houses, it's always gone beyond. So we always try to keep it small. By small, I mean a couple hundred. And so right now we have we opened up registration. I think we closed our registrations because we were really oversubscribed. But I think we have a lot of future houses coming, and we have a lot of social events that are kind of associated with the Builder House, but not necessarily. But I mean, short answer is you can just come find me, and I'll see. I have a few extra passes, so it's just come find me, and I'll figure it out. So that's probably my fastest growing answer. Oh, cool. All right. As I said, if you know all 5 games, if you recognize all 5 games, then I will give you a special prize. But you have to tell me afterwards. All right, next one.
Hello.
Hello.
Great talk. Thank you. I've been in the Web3 space for about 7 years. I've seen kind of hundreds of L1s launch. What's the unique value prop that Sui brings to market to kind of attract developers and build a sustainable ecosystem? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think when I think about any layer one launch, as you said, and I've launched a number of platforms before, but I think the biggest thing comes down to accessibility. And it's not just accessibility for the users per se, like the end users who actually use the blockchain prodding wallet. I actually think it is for developers too, because if you compare your developer tooling stack or how you build an application within a Web 2 world versus Web 3, it's actually kind of astonishing how little there is in the kind of Web 3 world, right? And I think what a lot of layer ones have kind of taken is they've taken this more of a tech first approach of, if we build it, they will come. But that's not really the case, because as I know, if I talk to developers, I mean, a developer is only going to choose a layer one because they think they're going to achieve fame and fortune, fame being users, fortune being money. And I think a lot of layer ones have already proved that they can build fortune, right? That's a lot of the DeFi activity and all that. But they haven't necessarily proved that they can bring users. And then why is that, right? And I think one, it comes down to accessibility. And that's how easy is it for any developer to build on any layer one, right? And it's pretty hard. It's actually it's almost the amount of engineering or programming you have to do that is almost a low-level engineer is pretty astonishing. That'd be kind of scary being a security engineer, right? And making sure that nothing gets hacked. And I think that's kind of where we're kind of positioning ourselves as Sui. And this first is how do we make it easier for people to prototype and build in a Web 3 world, right? And that started off with a programming language. And that was the reason why we've decided to go at Move versus kind of adopt one of the other programming languages, because not a lot of programming languages were really designed to make it easy for people to build smart contracts. So that's one area. I think another area also comes down to the data model. Now, I'm not technical, but I will try to break it down for people that are not technical like me, because it took a long time for me to understand this. But if you look at a lot of blockchains right now, right, they're actually more of everyone knows it's a verification of ownership, right? But that's just because the data itself of especially for an NFT, if an individual owns something, the individual doesn't own that object per se. That object is in the smart contract. So every time you're trying to make a transfer or do any activity, you need to always call the smart contract. So if you imagine the way that you're basically how you're going to code, right? If you have to, and especially at a game, there's a lot of instances that you're going to have to touch that object. But also there's a lot of instances when those different objects need to interact with other objects, right? And not and like, say, most blockchains to this date have not been designed for that, right? They have been designed for peer-to-peer like payment systems between banks, right? So if I was going to send you $10 and to another individual, right, I better hope that $10 does not change at any particular point, right? So, but if you think about like Sui, right, like we understand assets are a little bit different, right? Like if you're an asset, like a house or maybe a collectible trading card or maybe that level 100, like, you know, World of Warcraft account that you have building up forever, right? There is a value associated with that, but that value changes depending on a lot of different factors. And like it could depend on the owner who has it. It depends on the history. It could be the win record. It could be like, you know, what version of this particular trading card or edition that this come from, right? And all of those can contribute to the change in value. And no blockchain allows you to model that per se, right? Whereas in Sui, right, because we're modeling everything as an object, you can actually attach metadata to that particular object, right? You can put in color, you can put in time, you can put in all the updates and all that, right? You can't do that on any other blockchain right now. And on top of that, the way that we're reaching consensus is that our network is actually looking at and helping evaluate what is the relationship between objects, right? And this is also really important because most blockchains don't care what the connection is between each of these objects or whatever you're putting in, right? Everything goes into the same block. If you send money or if you mint a smart contract and all that, it's the same thing, right? They treat you the same. Whereas in our chain, it's actually different, right? We actually do pay attention to what the relationships between those blocks are, and then we actually run consensus accordingly. And that's really cool, right? Because that actually does contribute to the speed story. But I'm not here to sell you speed, right? I'm here to tell you like what you can now build that hasn't been possible in blockchain before, right? So, yeah. Does that answer the question, right? All right. We got another one on the end. Go for it.
Hello.
Hello.
Quick question. Nicola from Lemons Cup. We haven't been investing in ecosystems and layer ones since 2017. Yeah, you're ahead of growth, so I'm sure that coming into market in 2023, it's different from 2017, 18. So question is very, very straightforward. I'm sure you have done homework. Can you name the best ecosystem and the worst ecosystem? So make names, please. And what they've done and what good, the best, and what they've done bad, the worst.
Do I have to stick in Web3?
Yeah, of course. Well, layer one.
Because I actually would argue I don't think a lot of ecosystems are going to be sustainable in the Web3 world.
Sure. That's why.
Probably. So, I mean, maybe like, I would say Ethereum, but Ethereum only enjoyed first mover advantage, so to some extent. So, but I think my short answer is I think if I look at blockchain specifically, like for me, an ecosystem, the health of an ecosystem and like the sustainability is dependent on like the question that I would ask a developer on like what technology stack would you use, right? So like, and it should never be like comparing layer ones. I almost feel like I shouldn't have to go tell a developer why our layer one is important, right? If you ask them like what is their backend or their infrastructure technology stack, they should automatically assume, yes, I want to use blockchain in some way, right? Like there's no question. We're not there yet as an industry at all. So like, I mean like everyone's kind of thinking, I mean like blockchain or crypto and stuff, and this is like kind of where the opportunity is to some extent is because like we haven't hit mainstream yet. We haven't even had the scale, the hockey stick early part yet. Because to some extent, it's like, it's most ecosystems that I feel to this date had to use like, I don't want to call them artificial incentives, but you have to use a lot of incentives to get a developer to adopt or even use a product. I mean, still to this day, like if you think about a user that has to use any application, they have to connect their wallet, that's already like a game over for user acquisition. So as someone who's been in the free-to-play world, they have people who install games on their phones and they don't even open them. So, and that's kind of like what we're competing with in this kind of type of user. So I would say that like if we made it, it's because there should be no question that blockchain should be part of the infrastructure technology stack for a developer. And because we're not there yet, there's like no ecosystem that's done a good job. I'm hoping we're going to figure it out. But, you know, in the end, we got to live and learn, and we got to like experiment with a lot of things. So that's my honest answer. So yes, in the front. Well, I think it's like, I don't know what I'm doing on time. I think we're cut. Oh, I think, well, I guess I think I'm cut on time. So, but how do you find me? Good question. I actually answer all of my Twitter messages, so you can find me on Twitter. If you want to send me a note on Telegram, it's I am Ko Kim. So I am Ko Kim, which is my full name. And so definitely love to get to know you. Send me more information about your project and everything. I'll hang out in the backstage area if you want to like ask me more questions, and yeah, call it there. But thank you.